Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome to the Mama Shoshana podcast. I am Shoshana Mizell, also known as Mama Shoshana, and I have a subject I want to talk about that's really near and dear to my heart because it's something that I went through, and that is dealing with postpartum depression. So again, I am not a professional, I am not an expert, but I am an expert at my life and what I went through, and I just want to try and help inspire you to get help if you need it. So sit down, relax, get cozy, get some tea or coffee, and we'll be right back. Okay, so welcome back. Before I start, I just would like to ask if you could please like, subscribe, share, and comment. So what I want to talk about was postpartum depression. Now, I have 3 sons. My first son I had when I was 24, had, some emotional stuff after I gave birth to him, but nothing crazy. And then I had my next son, I was 29, also a little bit of being, emotional, and it's understandable. The hormones are changing after you give birth, and then you no longer have the hormones that sustain a pregnancy. Yeah, it's understandable. You're going to be a little emotional. But then I had my last son when I was 42 years old. Now, it's true that I was going through a lot at that time, excuse me, and I will talk about that. It's also in the book that I'm writing. I'm almost finished with it. It's a memoir of my life. And this is definitely a big part of something that I wrote about, was the postpartum depression, how scary it is, and how I see a lot of women do not share what they're feeling. They are afraid. The thoughts can be very scary. They're very unwelcome thoughts. And I just want to dispel the fear around getting help. So with postpartum depression, for me, after my third son, I actually started feeling strange like a few weeks before I was to give birth. So I didn't realize, and through my reading and research, that you can experience symptoms of postpartum depression while you're pregnant. So I'm going to be very honest here, because I know that I am not the only one. There's millions of women who are thinking these things, or thoughts that are, unwelcomed, intrusive thoughts that come into their head, and it can be very scary and very alarming. So a few weeks before I gave birth to my son, I remember standing in line at the supermarket, and I saw a magazine with a picture of a baby, and I had never thought anything like this before in my life. I wasn't reading anything that was referring to this. I had not seen any movies. I had no conscious memory of any outside influence, TV, radio, nothing. But the thought came to my head. It just popped into my head all of a sudden, uninvited, that baby is evil. And it was like, what the heck was that? That was really strange, and it was scary because I have a baby in me. What would possibly make me think something like that? And then I kind of brushed it aside, figured it was just one of those weird things, a lot of times pregnant women will have nightmares, dreams that somebody's trying to hurt their baby, or they're hurting their baby, or something's happening, or the baby's not going to love them, or if you have other kids, they're going to be angry with you. Just all kinds of strange dreams that come up that are really important, because we do have fears, and we do have fears of the unknown. What's going to happen when the baby's born? Are we going to be able to be responsible? Are we going to be able to keep that baby safe? How are their siblings or other children going to feel about it? So I figured it was something like that. But then as the days went on, I had more intrusive thoughts like that. I can't remember exactly what they were, but kind of similar to that. And that created anxiety in me. And that anxiety kind of heightened my fear of what if I can't be a good mom, even though I was, I had two children, two sons already who, I took good care of. I mean, I wasn't a perfect mother, but I was a pretty good mom. And at the time, the husband I was married to at that time, I would, I was talking to him about it, and felt some relief talking to him about it, but I kept on getting this fear that something was going to happen. I became very, very overwhelmed. Like, I almost felt like having that responsibility of this little life all by myself was just so overwhelming, and the unrelenting feeling of the gravity of being so responsible for a little life was just making me feel just so overwhelmed and scared. And, you can implement logic as much as you want to, but this is a disorder. Postpartum depression is not like regular depression. I don't even know why they call it depression per se. To me, it's what I experienced was my concern about being able to be a good mother, my concern about being able to take care of my child, turned into something where the messages were not, like, you're going to be okay. It's okay to be scared. You're not going to be alone. You can reach out for help. Was that immediately went to me as a mother somehow was going to hurt my child. And that is a very disturbing thought to have, especially before you're going to give birth. So I gave birth to Jordan. Just a side note, the 3 happiest times of my life was when I gave birth to my 3 sons. And yeah, it was, obviously painful. If you had children, you know that. But I thank God that Jordan was healthy, and he was full term. He was healthy, 10 toes, 10 fingers, everything. So I remember at times when I was in the hospital, of course, my husband was there, my in-laws came over, but there were times where I would be holding Jordan and I would get these thoughts that I was petrified that I would drop Jordan, that I would purposely drop him. Like I would have no control over the impulse to just throw him. And so I would hold him, but I would be so petrified that he would somehow fall off of me. It was really disturbing. I had never experienced this before. And it's scary because when you're experiencing these thoughts, which are totally indicative of postpartum depression, the fear is, what if I tell somebody? They'll think that I want to hurt my baby and they'll take my baby away from me and put me away in a mental institution. So that's a lot of reasons why a lot of women will not share what they're feeling. And postpartum depression, when, if it's really severe, when not addressed, it can become, it can turn into a lot of other more severe mental issues. A lot of women who have dealt with postpartum depression and have not been able to get help or have not reached out for help. If it's severe enough, they have actually harmed their children in the thought that they're actually trying to keep them safe. So they harm them, they kill them because they think that, well, if they're dead already, they'll be safe. And, you know, I just want to encourage you, if you are feeling any of these thoughts, please don't wait. Please reach out for help. And now, I mean, back when I was feeling this, it was 20 years ago, there was a lot more stigma, and they didn't necessarily have therapists or psychiatrists who specialized in postpartum depression. I just went to a general psychiatrist, but now they do. They have therapists who specialize in postpartum depression. So you really get the best care. And if you need medication, you know, you get the best medication for yourself in conjunction with therapy. And so when I brought Jordan home, you know, I was having a lot of anxiety. I was having a very difficult time coping. I mean, I would cry, constantly crying. I would always feel overwhelmed, and I would be scared to be left alone with Jordan. The thoughts would come to my head that, you know, what if I you know, throw him out the window? Or when he would cry a lot and I didn't know what to do, and nothing would soothe him, I would be like, you know, the thought of going another day, of this child being so dependent on me, the future seemed like an eternity. And, you know, a couple of weeks went by, and the scary feelings did not go away. The crying, constantly feeling like I just couldn't handle it. It just kept on going. And actually, my husband was the one that had suggested, you know, it seems like this is not stopping. It seems like it's really becoming worse. And that does happen with postpartum depression. When it's not, when you don't seek help, it can get worse. He suggested that I perhaps go see somebody, and I didn't know it was postpartum depression because I'd never dealt with it before. So I did go to see a psychiatrist, and when I told him all the symptoms and what I was feeling, he diagnosed it as postpartum depression and put me on antidepressant. He actually put me on one that I had a very bad reaction to. It increased my anxiety, increased my feelings of having these paranoid thoughts, having these unwanted thoughts. And I wound up having to go to the hospital because my anxiety got so bad. Now, thank God that night, actually, our son was with his grandma. She was watching him overnight, you know. Actually, she had the date with her grandson, her only grandchild. And it was just, I remember it was a Saturday night. And yeah, we went to the emergency room. They went through the whole thing about, you know, if you feel like hurting yourself or someone else. And, you know, one thing is, if you are an older mother, what I heard from one of the emergency room nurses is that as you may be entering into menopause or perimenopause, and, you know, the deletion of estrogen and all the different hormones are changing in your body, plus you're adding the hormones of being pregnant, and then the depletion of those hormones once you give birth. Those two things together can be really, really difficult. And I don't know that they can necessarily bring on postpartum depression, but it can definitely aggravate it and exacerbate it. So just know that, I mean, it can happen at any age, but what I've read and what I've been told by professional doctors, that it can be particularly difficult for mothers who give birth at an older age. So I got sent home with some, I think, Ativan, something to help with my anxiety. And remember taking it. I just could not sleep. I remember hearing somebody outside, you know, when I was trying to sleep, someone outside in the street. And although I knew that whoever was talking out there were just people walking by, but I thought in my head that there were people who wanted to harm me and hurt me. But I wasn't so far gone that I didn't realize that's just a symptoms of anxiety. Sometimes a side symptom can be paranoia. And I remember telling my husband I needed some friends of mine to come over, and I did. I was so fortunate. I had some, like 2 really close friends come over, and they were just there, just having their presence there was so amazing. Eventually I was able to fall asleep, and I was actually already seeing a therapist, but between getting the antidepressant and really focusing on what I was feeling at the time, and you know, being able to talk to somebody, to talk to a therapist and be really open about all the scary thoughts I was having, everything, and knowing that just because I'm having those thoughts doesn't mean I'm going to act out on them. Not being able to share this and keeping this in, it's like many other kinds of diseases or disorders. It just perpetrates on you. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And, you know, it took me like 2 years before I was slowly taken off the medication, and before I really felt a sense of stability, felt really safe with myself. Even though all this was going on, you know, being on the medication and being able to be open about it with a professional, it really helped. I have to tell you that it was one of the most amazing things I ever did. I was able to enjoy my son's life. I was able to, you know, laugh with him and have fun and, you know, just make sure that he was a happy baby. And I don't think that would have happened had I not reached out for help. So, you know, there are a lot of things going around that were a cause for anxiety, depression. There are a lot of things around, you know, the whole situation with how I became to be with my husband, how me getting pregnant had an effect on my other children from another marriage. The fact that I went through so many things, so many major life changes, and then getting pregnant with my son Jordan was another life change, major life change, at an age where I thought I would never, like I had 2 kids and that was it, you know. And again, all the details are in my book, but you know, wanting to get pregnant, wanting to have a baby, I would say, from my experience, just make sure you're sure that you're in a really good place, that you feel, you know, mentally and emotionally healthy, that you are, you know, feeling safe and protected, that you have a great support system, that if you have any, you know, things that you're grappling with from the past that are having a major effect on your emotional health now, maybe deal with them first. Try and find solutions and an inner strength that you can come to resolutions before you bring another major change into your life, which is to get pregnant and have a child. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully, you know you're not alone, and please don't be ashamed. These thoughts are all part and all symptoms of postpartum depression. It's very scary. But it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you're not going to be a good mom. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's a disorder. And it happens, you know, it happens. We're not, you know, in control over these things, mental issues. They can be a son of a gun, you know, because sometimes we could feel like, you know, well, something's wrong with us. Are we weak? Are we not a good person? Is this being done to us? You know, if you're religious, you might think, oh, why, God, why are you doing this to me? Just know that it's not for any of those reasons. It's just a mental disorder at the time that is just like anything else, like diabetes or cancer, any other kind of disorder in the body, and that it is okay to reach out for help. It is okay to get a diagnosis from a doctor, and if appropriate, to get medication that you need to help you through this. And really most important is to go to the appropriate therapist for this. So thank you so much for listening. I wish you the absolute best. Know that please don't judge yourself. Please love yourself and know that there's help out there. So thank you so much again for listening to me. Hopefully something I shared will help you. And I definitely leave a comment if you want to share anything here. So thank you so much again for coming to the Mama Shoshana podcast. And I love you. And I'm sending you support and love, and to know you reach out for help, you're going to be okay. Bye-bye.